Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming along tonight. My name is Ujita De Souza. I'm happy to welcome you to this Hustings meeting organized by Redbridge, Redbridge branch of Palestine Solidarity Campaign, ahead of the local election on Thursday, 7th of May. It's encouraging to see a good turnout. It reflects the importance of this moment and the value of open democratic discussion in our community. Firstly, some housekeeping matters. I hope you have all signed in as you entered this room. If not, please do so before you leave. The toilets are outside this room on the right. And in the unlikely event of a fire alarm, go out of this room through the doors you came behind you and then walk down the stairs and then take the first exit, walk on the stairs and assemble outside. And of course, if you put your mobiles on silent or turn it off, as the case may be, this is a safe place for ideas, discussion, and robust debate, but it must remain courteous. We may disagree strongly, but we should do so with civility. Any attempt to disrupt this meeting will be dealt with by appropriate security arrangements already in place. This is an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates who are seeking to represent you, to understand their priorities, and to question them on the issues that matter most to you in your daily lives. We are fortunate this evening to be joined by candidates from across the political spectrum. They have each committed their time and energy to stand for public office, and whatever your individual views are, this is something worthy of respect. I thank all of them for being here today and for participating in what I hope will be a constructive and informative event. Before we begin, let me briefly outline how the evening will run. Firstly, I will invite Diana Neslin, who's sitting right next to me on the right, co-chair of Redbridge Palestine Solidarity Campaign, to give a brief description of RPSC and its workings, if you like. After that, each candidate will give a brief opening statement, an opportunity to introduce themselves and highlight the key points of their campaign. Following that, we will move on to questions. Questions have been submitted in advance to save time, and we will only take additional questions and/or comments from the audience if we have the time, as we have to conclude these hustings by 9 p.m. The organizers have done their best to ensure the questions chosen from submissions reflect a fair balance of issues and priorities. Fair balance of priorities. And basically, we plan to have a fair and constructive meeting this evening. And at the end, we will also give an opportunity for the speakers to do a summing up, kind of closing statement, if you like. So without further delay, can I ask Diana Neslin to speak on behalf of Redbridge Palestine Solidarity Campus?
Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to see you all here. And I'm here to talk to you about Palestine Solidarity Campaign and why it is so important for us to organize a husting. Before I tell you more about Palestine Solidarity and the work we do, I want to make it absolutely clear that we are a non-political organization. Our objective is the freedom for Palestine and the people who live in it. Self-determination for Palestine. We have been working since 1982 on this issue. That was when Palestine Solidarity Campaign was formally recognized and constituted. And what we want is for all the politicians to recognize the rights, the dignity, and the future for Palestine. And this is why it's so important for us to have politicians here tonight who will be asked their views on Palestine and will be asked to commit to working effectively for Palestine. Now, I would like, there are joining up forms over there in the corner if you want to join PSC, as well as a QR code if you want to join our local WhatsApp group. We've also got a newspaper, a free newspaper, which tells you about what's happening in Gaza, because the mainstream media have forgotten about Gaza. They've got more important things to talk about. So please do take a newspaper before you go. Redbridge PSC is one of the many branches of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. The Palestine Solidarity Campaign is the UK's largest organisation advocating for Palestinian rights. It focuses on activism, on protest, and campaigns against Israeli occupation, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and now genocide. Ultimately, we wish to see peace and justice throughout the Middle East. The Redbridge branch was established in 2021, and our campaigns involve marches, demonstrations, awareness raising, boycott, sanction, and divestment. Locally, we've been active in promoting divestment from companies complicit in Israel's violation of international law and international human rights law, sadly, without any effective response from the Council. Our other activities, including boycott, divestment, and sanctions initiatives with respect to Israeli products, support for those targeted for their activity in defense of Palestinian rights, awareness raising, meetings, educational initiatives, and we work with other organizations campaigning for Palestine. Palestine Solidarity Campaign is non-committal. We support Palestine and engage in political work to encourage all the political parties to understand the true nature of the Israeli state and its oppression of the Palestinians. And this evening, we hope all the candidates will honour our brief by supporting the Palestine pledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Now we're going to open up the meeting to the speakers. So each candidate will have equal time to speak and respond to questions. I will keep a close eye on the time to ensure fairness, and I may intervene if necessary to keep us on track. I know passions can run high in political discussions, but maintaining structure will allow us to hear from everyone properly. This evening is not about winning arguments, it's about informing choices. Democracy works best when voters are informed and engaged. Events like this play an important role in the process, and please respect that. Thank you. So our first speaker is Khalid Noor from Redbridge Matters. We go for meetings. They will introduce themselves each time when they start speaking.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. First of all, thank you, Palestine Solidarity Campaign, for organizing these Hustings events, and I welcome all of you to tonight's event. My name is Khalid Noor. By profession, I'm a barrister, also now practicing as a solicitor. I live in Seven Kings, and I'm the chair of Redbridge Matters, an independent party registered with the Electoral Commission. I'm standing as a candidate from Seven Kings Ward, and I hope that we'll have a great discussion tonight. In terms of my presentation, I've given 4 minutes, and I should be very careful about the time, but obviously this is not something debate of argument, but sharing information that Chair has clearly mentioned. And therefore, we try to have some good discussion, and I hope that I enjoyed the discussion. I want to hear from others as well, from their perspective, so that we can have a good discussion and debate about the next election that is coming on 7th of May. We all know that the importance of local authorities, the service the local authority provide. Local authority provides and play an important role in our everyday life. The local authority then and delivers lots of service that include childcare, schooling, adult services, and other host of services. And it is estimated that local authority provides about 800 services, different and spectrum. And some of the services and most of the services are mandatory because they are required by law to provide. And therefore, some of the services regulated by the central government and some of the services delegated to the local authority to provide, and they're also mandatory. Across the countries, they are struggling with funding, and they are not immune, local authority like our council, Redbridge Council, not immune from this difficulty. And therefore, it is a difficult time for us as a local council candidate to navigate what should be our priority, what should we offer, and how we can navigate those things in terms of our committees. In terms of Redbridge Matters is a community-based independent political party registered with the Electoral Commission. We are a group of like-minded community activists, professionals, and former councillors who have come together to form Redbridge Matters. We are united by our clear priority, putting Redbridge residents first. We are increasingly concerned about the way Redbridge Council is being run, with a lack of transparency and accountability. Over the past decades, residents have faced repeated council tax increase around 5% year after year under the current Labour administration. Yet, this has not been delivered meaningful or improve our community's desire or services provided. Our mission is simple: to deliver better services, create a safer environment, to promote sustainable development while ensuring value for money for our local residents. In terms of some of the places, we want to say that we have a clear manifesto that is available in our website. In a nutshell, we want to see if we elected, our councillor will be highly visible in our communities. They will be running their own surgeries on a regular basis, working with police and local authorities, and also law enforcement agencies to deliver service that is important to the local community. We will seek every opportunity to obtain funding for build highly affordable and social housing. And also, we will actively intervene to deliver regeneration of the town center and work in partnership with local residents. We will commit to reopening and expanding our network of public toilets as part of our effort to encourage residents to come into our high street. We will review and strengthen planning and license policy to reduce number of fast food takeaway near to schools and residence areas. There will be regular inspection of official residence street to identify cleanliness and enforcement issue, and we will commit to better and more monitoring of all council contacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second speaker is Gary Strait from the.
My name's Gary Strait, not Strait. Member of the Democrats. I'm standing for the Democrats in Chadwell Ward. I'm also here as a long-term friend and supporter of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. I've attended about 10 marches, rallies and demos organised in London by the PSC. Some of these were well before October 2023, when the Hamas attack and Israeli response brought the issue of Palestine to a wider public. I was initially mainly concerned by the increased illegal settlements, settler violence and the actions of these occupying forces in the West Bank. Some politicians of parties who have not chosen to have representatives here tonight have called these hate marches. In all the times I have attended, I have not heard a single chant or seen a single banner that might generate hate against our fellow Jewish citizens. Yes. Those who have been on the marches will have seen fellow marchers who identify themselves openly as Jewish or standing on the sidelines supporting the marches. I hope everyone here does not support the recent arson attack on the 4 Jewish charity ambulances and last year's fatal attack on the Manchester synagogue. The sickening criminal actions, Jewish citizens are not responsible for the actions of the Israeli government. and those actions will do nothing to further our fight for Palestinian rights. Jewish UK citizens might feel threatened and choose as a result to emigrate to Israel and possibly to illegal settlements. That's not what we want. Supporting those who attended Palestinian rallies might think, when listening to the speakers at the end and seeing the many posters given out, it's only left-wing parties that support Palestinian rights and oppose the actions of the Israeli government. I must dispel you of the view. Supporting Palestinian rights is a moral issue, and I must tell you that the moral issue is not just an exclusive thing from the left-wing parties. March last year, I was pleased to spot a banner, Liberal Democrat Friends of Palestine. I managed to catch up and join them, and my badge proudly shows this. In the House of Commons, one of the most eloquent and most outspoken MPs for Palestinian rights and critics of the Israeli government is a guy called Kit Malthouse, and he's a Tory. It is also interesting to see when he speaks how uncomfortable their foreign affairs spokesman is with his powerful interventions. It was for this reason when a member of the PSC, I spoke at 2 AGMs urging they reach out to parties beyond the left wing of British politics. Because of reduced time, I was going to go through a whole load of what the party stood for, but I'm just going to obviously concentrate a bit on some of the most up-to-date things. But I will leave these here so people at the end might want to take photos of Liberal Democrat policies on Palestine and their recent activity in Parliament. So one of the things I've been very frustrated with is how the Labour government deals with it, debates in Palestine in House of Parliament. It is very difficult for opposition parties to take control of the agenda in Parliament. The number of times when I've heard and listened to government foreign affairs spokesmen say, we have expressed our concerns to the Israeli government, leaves me shouting at my TV. When I watch a parliamentary channel, he never says what the consequences, if any, there will be. Finally, the last thing I want to say about Palestine is we recently saw about the tragic US strike on the school in Iran. They said they would reluctantly, they would investigate. Anyone heard the result of that? But I'm afraid that's just the same playbook the Israeli military uses. I've heard numerous times. For example, remember the strike on the aid convoy in Gaza that killed, amongst others, 3 British citizens? That was well over a year ago. Our government pressing the Israeli government to answer, and I go on. I will answer any questions regarding the conditions in the council in questions, because I thought it was more important issues of Palestine were raised.
Our next speaker is Said from the Green Party.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Diana and the Palestine Solidarity Campaign for organising a fantastic meeting this evening. So my name's Said Siddiqui. I'm the chair of Redbridge Green Party as well as its coordinator, and I am also a council candidate in Chadwell. So I'm not going to be speaking about myself here. I'm going to be speaking on a local Green Party perspective. So it's more national and local policies. So firstly, I'd like to start off by saying it goes without saying that the National Green Party were the first national political party to call out Israel's atrocities for what they were, apartheid and genocide.
True.
And that was quite some time ago. It's fair to say many other parties have followed since. In terms of Palestine and some of the occurrences over there, it's been quite obvious from our perspective from the very start. We've called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and an end to the actual all occupation of Palestine. Aside from being the first party to call it apartheid and genocide, we've also called on the UK government to ban all arms sales to Israel, and we've been calling on that for quite some time now. So not to complicate the issues or prolong my statement, I thought I'll just highlight some of the key policy positions the party has on Palestine. So in terms of the human rights side of it, we called on all an immediate release of all hostages and an end to the slaughter in Gaza, which is still occurring till today. As Diana mentioned, mainstream papers, news channels are not really mentioning it as much as they were, but it is still occurring till today. We've called and demanded a full and immediate suspension of all arms exports to Israel, including components for fighter jets, which have been very openly used against the Palestinian people at the conflict. When it comes to diplomatic pressure, we as a party have consistently called on the UK government to suspend the Israeli ambassador to the UK. And I've also supported the ICC and ICJ investigations calling it what it is, war crimes, blatant war crimes that were publicized and promoted all over international news, social media sites. And in more than one case, Israeli military personnel gloating about some of the atrocities they're committing out there. When it comes to the actual territories itself, we've been quite clear from the get-go that we've called on all illegal settlements to be ended and called it what it is, illegal settlements in large parts of the West Bank and Palestine as a whole. We've also called on the UK government to criticise, as well as called on the UK government to stop arresting protesters for their support for the Palestinian cause. That's something we still call on for today. Something that hasn't been mentioned is the cut to their funding to UNRWA, which plays an integral role in supporting rehabilitation of people that have suffered, rebuilding of properties. And we've also, as a party, called on the UK government to ban and reinstate funding for that agency. From a local perspective, Redbridge Green Party supports the BDS movement, and we're calling and have supported the movement since the start. We support banning or investing Redbridge taxpayers' pension schemes into organisations and entities that are profiting from the war in Gaza, continue to profit. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Tariq. Our fourth speaker is Wasim Ahmed from Redbridge Independence.
I've got one supporter anyway. So firstly, thank you to Redbridge PSC for this invite. We've always worked really closely with Redbridge PSC, and we're proud to be associated with this movement, both locally and nationally. In addition to that, we actually created our party at the start of the Gaza genocide. And our movement is deeply rooted in Palestine solidarity, and it would always be and would unequivocally support the rights of the Palestinian people until our last breath. My name is Wasim Ahmed, and I'm the leader of Redbridge Independence. We're standing a complete slate of candidates across the borough, offering a real alternative right across Redbridge. And we're doing that because people deserve better than what they've been given over the last decade. Our manifesto, which is on our website, makes it clear that our first priority is tackling the cost of living crisis. Because that's what people are feeling every single day. Families are struggling, bills are going up, and at the same time, they're seeing less and less in return. These are the lived realities of people in Redbridge. And the reason people are so frustrated is simple. Too often, residents feel ignored. Too often, decisions are made without proper engagement. And too often, promises are made without delivery. We want to change that. We're local people rooted in the community. We live here, we work here, we raise our families here. And we're committed to working with residents, not just during elections, but throughout our time in office. Because politics should be about listening, working together and delivering real outcomes. But we also have to be honest about where we are. After more than a decade of Labour control, residents are asking a very simple question. What's actually improved? Because what people are seeing is rising council tax, services cut to the bone, and a council now struggling financially to the point where it's had to seek external support. That isn't sustainable and is certainly not acceptable. You see it in youth services being reduced. You see it in housing pressures increasing. You see it in families struggling to get by. And when services are cut, when support disappears, it's the most vulnerable who feel it first. That's why tackling the cost of living isn't just a slogan for us, it's the foundation of everything else. Because if families are struggling to eat, to heat their homes, to pay their rent, then everything else becomes harder. Now, let me also say this. What's happening in Gaza has had a profound impact on so many people across Redbridge. I'm sure this audience too. For many, it's been a moment of moral clarity. People have watched events unfold and felt that the political establishment hasn't listened to them or represented their concerns. As a party, we are clear. We support calls for justice for the Palestinian people, and we always will. We support peaceful pressure, including measures like boycotts and sanctions to bring about accountability, and that includes divestment right here in Redbridge. And we believe the UK must take a principled stand when it comes to human rights and international law, but we're also honest about our role. We're a local party. Our responsibility is to represent residents here in Redbridge. That's why we'll work with others at a national level, including independent voices and campaigns, to ensure that these issues aren't ignored and that justice is pursued. Because for many people, this isn't just a foreign policy issue. It's about fairness and it's about human dignity. And it's about whether their voices are heard and respected. And when people feel ignored on issues that matter this deeply, it affects trust in politics as a whole.
Thanks very much for asking me here. I want to talk to you about key performance indicators. Now, you're probably thinking, what on earth is he blathering on about key performance indicators? Well, they're essential management tool. If you're going to build a structure, you need all sorts of tools. But to build decent government, you need key performance indicators. Things like overcrowding, how many children are living in overcrowded accommodation. Hate crimes, for example. Hate crimes have gone up probably as a consequence of the war. What's been done about hate crimes? And perhaps most important is how many political figures locally have been nicked. Because Redbridge, there's quite a few. Let me have a think. There was Councillor Iqbal, Matthew Godin. Was it Ben Walters in Jazz's office? And there was another one recently in Wes Streeting's office. So there seems to be quite a lot in Redbridge. And there may be, and I stress, maybe, there may be some more. I'm puzzled. I was puzzled to see that 6 Labour candidates all of a sudden have changed their name. Well, that's odd. I'll do a bit of digging. And one of them, Guy Williams, he can do that, okay, because that appears to be his real name. But the other 5 doesn't seem to be their real name. And I said, what's going on? And nothing's come back. So I did a bit more digging, and it appears to be an offence. And it's happened before with Councillor Iqbal. False declaration, albeit he did lie to the police, which didn't help matters, went to jail. So I went to the police yesterday, really good service, phoned them at 9 o'clock, 2:30 appointment, sent all the stuff, and now I'm waiting to see if they're going to open an investigation. And it's not just those councillors, oh dear. There's Jazz, the leader of the council, and others. It's not enough time for it, it's a long list. It appears as though there's reasonable grounds to think there's misconduct in public office. So that's gone off to St Mark Rowley. So I'm doing my best to keep the police busy. Hopefully you can I thank you to people as Rosemary, Basim, others that have been involved in the campaign. It's not just me, obviously, by the way. So, they're really important key performance indicators because they're there at the minute to help wealthy families. When it comes to the poor, key things like how many children are being sent to A&E because they haven't got a good enough diet, that's not on anyone's. So we need to expect and deserve real management, modern management, not some like 18th century nonsense. And a key way of getting that modern management is scrapping the stupid standing orders that prevent the public from attending meetings. So you what? So if you come here and you say, my child is sick, I can't afford to feed my child. What are you going to do about it? Because it's not just me, it's other people I know. What are you going to do about it? Then the council leader, well, they should answer the question. They should just hide away and say, well, no, that's the standing order to say you can't answer that question. So yeah, we need to push. We need to think of one idea. There's a petrol app at the minute that says you can look for cheap petrol. A decent opposition for the working class and middle class to say you want an app for all the local supermarkets. So the poor, well, and the middle class, they can know where the cheapest bread is, and the middle class can know where the cheapest soda is. But anyway,
Thank you very much, Randy, for that. And now we move on to the next section of our meeting, which is basically now we move on to the next section of our meeting, which is putting questions to the candidates. And so, did you want to say something?
Yes, I have a question.
No, this is all right. I think you missed the early part of the meeting where I said we are taking some questions that have already been submitted by members of public. And if we have time at the end, we will take questions or comments from the audience. Okay? Because we've got to conclude this meeting by 9 o'clock on Friday. Okay, so each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. So the first question is, will you make PSC's candidate pledge to Palestine, and particularly will you actively support any efforts for Redbridge Council to divest its local government pension scheme funds from companies complicit in Israel's violation of international law? Now, we were going to have the candidate pledge at the back on the slide, but fortunate technology let us down. So if the candidates have received the pledge, so they should know what it is, or for the sake of the audience, I will read out the actual pledge. So the pledge is, as a councillor, I will take all appropriate steps to 1, uphold the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, support efforts to prevent and ensure accountability for Israel's crimes of genocide, military occupation, ethnic cleansing, and apartheid, ensure my council is not complicit and does not help to normalize Israel's violations of international law, including through the council divesting pensions and any other funds it administers from complicit companies and through its procurement policies. So that's the actual pledge that we're asking the candidates to sign up to. So the first question, as I said, is will you sign up to that pledge, and then how do you support the council's divestment or attempts to get the council to divest from its pension fund from companies involved in Israel atrocities, basically. Okay. So we go the same order basically. Yeah. So the first question, obviously, Ali, you want to answer that?
Thank you. The answer to this question, in terms of the place, Diana just kindly sent me the link, I think so last night. So I have seen this one also. Thank you for saying these things. In principle, Redbridge Matters will be supporting this place. Obviously, we'll make a decision. We have our candidates are meeting tomorrow, and then we'll discuss, and also obviously we'll formally sign the statement. In terms of our policy about Palestine, and also the issue about the funding divestment, we strongly support that, and also feel that self-determination of Palestine and also just and lasting peace through a viable two-state solution. We prioritize dialogue and conflict resolution over endless war with uncertain outcomes. In terms of the divestment, obviously this is it's not an easy issue. It's a very complicated issue. Obviously, we expect that in terms of Redbridge matter position that we will develop an ethical investment policy, ensuring the council assets, including our pension funds, are investment where possible in companies meeting strict environmental, social, and governance standards, while avoiding harmful industries like fossil fuel, tobacco, weapons, and gambling. In terms of the divestment, it is a complicated process, and my understanding is I'm not expert on this matter. My colleague in former councillor Ross Hartful is expert on this matter, but my understanding is that any kinds of divestment, it takes about 2 years to consider, and then obviously you need to make a decision what is important. And obviously, you shouldn't do any kinds of policy that take times, and also if an divestment anything that costing council and taxpayer money, because we have a responsibility to both those the member and also the council taxpayer. So obviously, it has to be, we support that, we propose that it should be positive investment policy rather than reactive policy. We need to think that where is investment is ethical investment, and we support this ethical investment policy. Thank you.
So, Gary State, will answer that question.
I will. I actually saw the actual pledge link on my regular PSC local email that you send me to tell me what's going on, and I responded the same day. So I don't only wait for the link because I've seen it and I've I did make all my party aware of that pledge, but that's up to each individual candidate to choose. It's not a party matter. We will not tell our party members, candidates, whether to or not to. That's their own moral decision they have to make. Regarding the actual divestment, I was a councillor for 16 years, and I actually served on the council's superannuation investment panel, where you get reports from your managers who manage on your behalf portfolios of investments. And I remember when I was on there, we were discussing about how we would choose to avoid companies that were actually possibly damaging the environment. And so that was something that was discussed then. And it's right, it's not straightforward, but you have to actually you can't actually say, oh, it's that company. You will get a report back from the investment fund managers, and you'll be then able to say, these are the sort of companies we do not want you to invest in for the following reasons. You won't be able to easily say, not that company, not that company. You have to give them a steer, all right? I personally, if I was elected, I would argue in my group that's something we should do. But again, that is for each of our councillors, if elected, to listen to the arguments, and there is possible financial implications, you have to be aware of that, and they would make the decision as a collective. Myself, I will argue for it, because I argued for it when it was an environmental issue, and trust me, I would argue for it for a pastime issue as well, and for rights. But I would not be willing to speak on behalf of the other candidates if they're elected. That's a democratic decision the group will make. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Next speaker, Saeed.
Yeah, thank you. So I think this one's quite sweet and simple. In terms of boycotting, we as a party support that. Locally, as a local entity, we support that also. The pledge that Diana mentioned, personally, yes, I've signed it. And as far as I'm aware, it's been shared amongst our extensive group of councillors, and the majority, if not all, will probably sign in the coming days. But as a local party, we do support that pledge. The second latter part of that question was, how would you go about achieving those aims in terms of divesting from organisations, companies and entities that are profiting from the war in Gaza? So ultimately, you have to be realistic. You can always talk the intellectual side of it, but the reality is simple. You need a majority in council. If you've got a majority in council, as one of our colleagues mentioned, you have to wait 2 years. I think I was none the wiser about that. But naturally speaking, you need a majority. You need to make sure if you don't have a majority, there's a coalition, and if that coalition together can actually make decisions that would have a mandate. So how do we achieve it? We get a majority, or we have a hung council where there's a coalition of councillors that work together to achieve those aims. The latter part of that, of how achieving it, aside from having a majority and pushing the vote through, where no one can actually stop us as a set of councillors and the local authority, I would suggest public pressure and political pressure from different entities, individuals, political parties, both housing associations, or call it what you want. When organisations pressure council, when they lobby, when they protest, it does make a difference. It always has made a difference. And if we continue to do it as a joint entity, it can make a difference. So, yeah.
Thank you, Gary. Next speaker is Mossy.
Thanks. Thankfully, we've already discussed it with all of our candidates, and they're all going to be supporting this policy of divestment, no question about it. And that's also why we're pushing, as Said said, to win a majority in the council so we can make real effective change. As a group, we've also attended and spoken at the various divestment demos held outside this town hall. I'm sure PSC will vouch for that. And look, guys, I know people say it's complicated and it's going to take 2 years. If the Southwark Labour Council managed to do it, then why the hell can't we do it as independent? Yeah. And I'd like to go a step further. I'd like to say, and obviously this needs to be discussed further, but I would like to do 2 more things. One is I'd like to twin Redbridge with Rafa. Yeah. And secondly, I would like a permanent memorial in Valentine's Park for the Gaza genocide. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm certainly never going to forget this.
Our next person to answer the question is Andy Walker.
I've been privileged to be on the periphery of the campaign. I was there on the evening when they blocked the Palestinian disinvestment campaign. And it was one of my proudest interventions. I broke the standing orders, naughty person I am. And I was delighted to lead a chant from the gallery of Free Palestine. The chair didn't take kindly to this, and I was ejected. But no, it's a badge of honour rather than one of shame. So, and I'm delighted to do a YouTube interview with Diana. That was one of my most successful YouTube interviews, about 1,000 views. But the more of us who do those sort of interviews, the more the word gets around. One thing, if I was elected a councillor, I would be minded to put down a motion saying the Met should apologise for the disgraceful treatment of a Mr. and Mrs. Buxton, who were accused of anti-Semitic behaviour. I think it was Newham Town Hall. It was an absolute disgrace. They were picked up at midnight, apparently on the instructions of Labour. I've spoken to one of them, traumatised. You would imagine it, wouldn't you? Picked up at midnight, put in the cells overnight. An absolute disgrace. And it's just on the fringes of the media. So that shows you where the real power lies in our media. So yeah, I was walking along the street the other day, and a policeman walked towards me. I thought, oh my God, am I going down the cells? And you really shouldn't be fearing the police just because you're outspoken on the left. So that shouldn't be brushed under the carpet. So thanks for that respect.
Thank you. That's the first question answered by all of the candidates. Thank you for that. So the second question is,
Mike,
so sorry. Can you give me that?
Andy doesn't like it.
Yeah, so the second question is, do you think council homes are important? And if so, as a Redbridge councillor, what would you do to improve the poor record in building council homes by Redbridge Council? According to the latest figures, it is 24th out of 33 London councils in building council homes per population.
Wow.
Yes, this is one of the most difficult things to address in Redbridge. And historically and statistically, Redbridge is one of the boroughs where we have most homeowners and the less social housing. And Redbridge Council on the foresight of delivery, and though there is a plan. So this is the biggest dilemma for everyone, not just incumbent, those we are planning to come and intend to come to take these responsibilities. In terms of the council housing, the Redbridge Council, as I said, the delivery is really poor. And obviously we want to see that the more investment coming on the housing, but the social housing that at the moment is some of the housing development going on, we feel that it's not enough for the local residents' need, because some of the services that we expect, social housing or affordable housing, it doesn't meet the community's need and interest. And obviously we want to see that proper family homes and family housing that is providing those are waiting on the waiting list for a long time. In terms of our places, and also we are trying to support that will seek opportunity to obtain funding for housing, building high quality social housing to meet the needs of the local residents. And obviously we'll work with Mayor of London to get increased delivery social housing. When a development of housing, social housing, will look into priority building family homes, and also the service the providing need for our disabled people as well, and those are in need. When building housing, and we will be campaigning for vigorously that we need to any kinds of housing development is approved, the necessary supporting infrastructure, including GP services, dental facilities should be included. In terms of the Tesco development, we will urgently seeking some of the reviews. We recently wrote a letter to the Tesco CEO and also Watson Home CEO, and we want to see that they want to review this matter, take the residents' issue into consideration, and residents' concern into consideration, and hope that we'll continue work with everyone, including those that are campaigning for a long time as well. Thank you.
Well, I actually grew up in a council home in Chapel Heath. Weren't many, and you can always tell what they were because they were very different, tucked on the end of my road, Bryan Road. And they were well built in the 50s and 60s. The one problem you do have is when I was on the council is you relied a lot on what's called the share of what the council would get as affordable homes for rent from developers. And the council had this policy was, we'll give you a target, 20%, 25% of that, but they didn't say what sort of properties. And so in Chapel, we had a massive expansion of house building, and we had lots of bed sits available as your council properties. And myself and one of my colleagues, John Tyne, who is actually a Green now, he was our housing spokesman, and we tried to put through to say there shouldn't be 25%. It should be based on the occupational rooms, which is living rooms and bedrooms, and that should be what you say. That's what we want from the developers. But the council denied that. I think it was a Tory council then, but I'm sure that the Labour Party wouldn't change that, because what they want is the numbers. It's not the numbers you need, it's places where people with families need to live. And increasingly, towards the end, when I was actually the councillor, I was delivering all the student flats in Chapel, and you see gradually people, when they moved in, didn't have a kid, and then you saw the pram, then you saw two prams, and they were all outside in the because there was nowhere else to put them. So you've got to do is you've got to grip that any imposition you make on the developers, you've got to change the actual mechanism to say occupational rooms is what you want, not properties, and that will go some way. We haven't got much space, but it'll go some way to helping.
I'd just like to say, yeah, John Tyne's still in the Green Party.
I know.
He's doing a fabulous job, and so look, it is a simple thing to say. What many people do say is, oh, we're going to get loads of money and we're going to build loads of houses and we're going to prioritise it, and Bob's your uncle, job done. it's not that simple. There's a lot more to it. Ultimately, how do you develop one's community just like you would develop other aspects of say life or community? Is learning. You need to have the experience, you need to have the right people behind you, you need to have funding, you need to allocate the correct funding, you need to have experience. I'll touch on that, but you need to learn and you need to have people basically guiding you. Now, in the Green Party, we're very fortunate to have numerous councils that we control across the country. I'm just going to mention 3 of these councils. You've got Lewes District Council, Mid Suffolk District Council, and Bristol City Council. We, as a political party, work very closely with local groups. We work very closely with local parties, always engaging, dialoguing, and learning from each other. Doing what one does correctly, we do the same. So Bristol, for example, has broken records in the UK for building affordable new housing in the area. So we learn, we seek to learn more, we strategize so we've got the correct amount of funding. Of course, you can't build on thin air, so you need land. So you have to figure out where best to do it, where it would have less of an impact with people's day-to-day lives. You know, you can't just build houses and forget about the GP services that's required, or the car parking facilities, or the school places for the little kids. So there's a lot more to it than just saying, get the money, build the houses. You can't disenfranchise and disadvantage long-standing community residents for the benefit of new ones. So you have to meet in the middle. You need to learn, you need to have a strategy, you need to know how to allocate funding, you need to pick, most importantly, the right places with the community support, with a lot of consultation, lots of money, and a lot of strategy work behind the scenes.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. So on housing, I'd say, look, affordable, safe, decent housing is central to well-being and financial security. There's no doubt about that. And Joseph Rowntree Foundation and their poverty research highlight that actually housing costs are one of the big things that take people below the poverty line, right? So from our perspective, the key sort of bullets that we'd like to implement: push for generally affordable family-size homes, not token provision. Demand better quality new builds with proper space, safety, and design. Strengthen enforcement against rogue landlords. That's what I watch out, mate. And poorly managed HMOs. I'm sure many of us have come across those. Make sure that major developments include proper local consultation and plain English summaries. Don't make it difficult for residents to engage and give feedback. And finally, ensure residents understand what's being proposed and have real influence over planning decisions. Thank you.
Well, high rise, it deserves to be the issue of this campaign because the working class and the middle class are getting completely ripped off. In my leaflet, I've got just happened to have some extras if you want to read about it. Western homes, don't get me wrong, I'd love to be working class, upper class. I buy my lottery tickets, but it's not working out. They're really successful. They've got a flair for business. And one of the reasons they're successful is they sponsor Labour Party events. Now, don't get me wrong, it's perfectly legal. You buy influence by sponsoring political parties' events.
Yeah.
And not only that, they really go for it. Councillor Venetia Solanki, August of last year, she took hospitality from the Oval Cricket Ground. Nothing wrong with that. It's all perfectly legal in today's world. It should be in a just world, completely illegal, of course, but it's currently legal. A couple of months later, in goes the new plan of development for the Tesco development. No GP facility. Why not? So I'm using the money that we've raised off to Redbridge Council. We will sue you, but provided you have the funds, if you don't put a GP facility in there. They back off. The deadline goes back to the end of June, and I haven't got much time. Anyway, it's a space that I will watch this space on that point. Now, on the broader point, high-rise are a disaster because the service charges. After a while, it's £4,000. That's what I mean about it being a class issue. It suits the upper class because not only do they, it's the double whammy, the huge profits from the mega blocks going up, then they get more double bubble because of the national companies cashing in on the service charges. So it just shows you how the lack of political consciousness among the working class and the middle class. And I'm doing my best to raise it a bit. And we did take it to court, and I hope we'll take it to court again. One last thing, you can't make policy without the data. It's a data vacuum. We don't know what's going on around homelessness, how many people are coming into the borough, where they're coming in from the borough, what boroughs are top of the table for making sure families aren't in bed and breakfast. You need the data to make the policy. In a modern world, you should have the data coming to cabinet every month.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering that question. So the third question is, sorry. The third question is, we are told that there will be a large black hole in the council's budget by 2030. If you have to make cuts, what areas would you look at to cut and or generate income?
Wow. That's definitely an important question and difficult question to answer. Obviously, my understanding is, as I said in my introductory remarks, that the councils up and down the country, including our council, in terms of struggling with finance and the shortage of budget, and they're trying to make it a balanced budget, considering the liability and expenses that required, and also capital investment for the future. My understanding is that this is waiting for about 70 million pound of funding for next year, and to make their budget deficit and also going forward. We think that is important thing for us to consider restructuring, and also the projects that is not necessary should be considered seriously. And also we think that some of the things, some of the planning on public services need to maintain in terms of investment of futures project that need to be considered what is best interest for the local community without compromising the resident services, also local services that is required and to provide by the council. And we see that we will see this full funding and also structure of the funding at the time when you go to the council chamber to see that we will obviously to readjust our priority, residents' need, and then where the funding should be available, where should be reinvested. Because it is very difficult or sometimes tempting to promise something, but you cannot deliver because funding is very short, and obviously it is one of the difficult tasks would be for everyone to consider, and hope that we will find ourselves in the position, but I will not make any concrete promise or proposal because it is very difficult at the moment because we will see the state of the funding when we go there. Thank you.
Gary?
I'm glad that question was asked because initially I prepared for 7.5 minutes, which I was told we would have until this morning. My last bit was council finances, because I was going to talk about council towards the end, but I thought Palestinian issues would be what you wanted to hear mainly. The one overriding issue that all the councils elected in May need to get a grip of is the council finances. Last year, the council was close to bankruptcy. Not alone in the country, but they had probably a 77 million pound black hole. They were bailed out by the government. Don't assume that's going to be a regular thing, because it's not. And you're all going to be getting leaflets through your doors from all political parties. Think about what the costs will be, because I will tell you now, controlling the council's finances will be the #1 priority when the local councils are getting. And I was involved when we had hung councils. If you do have a hung council this time, how the council ran it last time was the officers would come up with proposals in all their areas. They would then give it to all the then it was 3 parties, who knows how many it's going to be, to consider. And then you would actually choose, but be careful because the officers often want to give you the choices you won't want to make. You have to ask another question. Is this all? I'll give you one example, however. of things that should not happen, and that is vanity projects. The council, you go on the website, what do you see? Valentine's open air swimming pool. I come from a small background. My brother ran a swimming pool, and I can tell you, despite what the council said when my party asked, to heat that swimming pool since the Ukraine war is going to be astronomical, and that's without the running costs. So something like that, I don't know if they're putting money aside, probably haven't got it anyway, but those things need to be in the bin because they're not practical.
Yep, so in terms of budgets, funding and cutting, it's not as simple as it sounds. Services that exist in the local community are services that the public need, more often than not. So it's important, rather than I individually or my local party just saying we're gonna cut a service here and cut a service there, get some money here and put it there. Consultation, nothing is as important as consultation. You have to discuss with those who are the most needy, who are the most affected, and it's important that their views are taken into consideration. I don't like, or I'm not fond of the word, what service would you cut? I think it's about how you would reallocate funding, how you would reallocate services, what type of services you would think about cutting back on, enhancing certain, for example, you might have interlinked services with a library, some of it. So you have to think about what is priority, what isn't. This is similar to most than any other aspect of running a local authority. I do think there's a lot of things that need to be looked into. Goes without saying, vanity projects is absolutely ridiculous. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense, especially when we're going through such difficulties across the country. It's even more of a shame that a Labour government is refusing to invest money into local authorities that are Labour run. So ultimately, consultation, actual analysis, looking at data, looking at how much is being allocated where. I don't think any candidate here can turn around and give you an idea of what's been spent in what particular department. So to say you're going to cut something and, you know, fund something is totally would be unfair to say the least. So consultations, what the community needs, what it doesn't need. And one of the things that I would personally throw into the hat is generating money. Now, other councils across the country, they are developing buildings with their own funds. It's easy for a council to get a loan for developing their own properties. And so if you were to try meet in the middle where you provide social housing, sell some houses, try generate more of an income for the council, and that income can make a difference in many departments. So yeah, be a bit more entrepreneurial.
Thank you, Sally.
I think we have to look at these things in a creative way. And if you look at what Aspire have done in Tower Hamlets, the amount of houses they're building, the amount of investments they're making, we don't have to follow Tory and Labour austerity and just tweak things a bit. I think we have to be very bold and very creative. And we've thought about that a lot because obviously there's a possibility that we could win a majority. So then you need to think about what next. The first thing I do from my corporate experience and my entrepreneurial experience is you do a 100-day plan. You lift up the bonnet, you see what's underneath, you see the state of the finances, and then you act accordingly. What also gives me the confidence, looking at my team, is that we've got experts in housing, education, finance, transformation, health, business people. So we would take things back to basics. We've got those experts, and the biggest things people have already mentioned is priority. Why are you spending money on a Lido when Broadmead Bridge can't be fixed, when Fulham Top Centre is falling down? You need to prioritize, get your priorities straight, and if you do that and you generate additional income, then we can make life much better for our 300,000 residents. Thank you.
And Andy.
Yes, cuts. You've got to make the argument for why we need better services, not worse. Poverty, it's not on the radar. You've got to think about ways of making it on the radar. There is a discretionary fund to help the poorest. We should have transparent key benchmarks. Who gets the help, and obviously, to make it emotional, the there's not too many child deaths, but there are child deaths and they are caused by poverty. You can dig out the data. There's big analysis in the FT. The poorest 8-year-olds and the poorest 10%, they die at a rate 10 times faster than the richest kids. So what we say is that's so unfair. God forbid your child dies out of poverty. You go to the top of the queue for a handout. If you've been sanctioned by one of these cruel sanctions where if you're late for a job interview, you're sanctioned so you can't go out, you can't feed your family, or you've had one kid die, well, you're not going to have another one. We're going to do our best to try and give working class and middle class people the attitude that they're getting a rough deal. So we're not going to cut stuff further. So if your child is suffering from asthma or respiratory disease or whatever, and they can't keep the family home and they keep on going to hospital, they go top of the queue. And the council make it aware that they go top of the queue. So we say, growth for who? We want growth in the people's health. And we're not going to take it. We're not going to take these cuts. Now, it's easy to get up here and just pontificate. It takes years to build enthusiasm for politics. So a little bit I do, I meet in the community with others once a month for my own party, and also try and build a residents association once a month. And I tell you, it's hard work, but to my mind, it's the only way to change things. So thanks for that.
Okay. Khalid Noor had to leave this meeting room for a little while for personal reasons. So Ross is standing from Redbridge Methods is standing in his place, but he's not necessarily going to speak as such. So just to explain the change of people at the table, if you like. So the fourth question, so the order in which is, because Khalid normally answers first, so we'll ask the second person, which is Gary, to answer this question first. So the fourth question is, the public participation and monitoring officer protocols were imposed by Redbridge Council in January 2024. The consequences severely erodes residents' democratic rights to hold councillors and the council to account. Please explain what you know about these protocols, and more importantly, what you will you and your party undertake to do to have them revoked? Yeah.
I'm glad that question was asked as well, because that was another bit that I didn't get a chance to speak. One of the things that people may not know, we used to have what's called area committees. It's something the Liberal Democrats were so passionate about, because it meant the local councils in a local area faced the residents, and some of the decisions that the council took were devolved. When Labour got in 2014 or 18, whatever, the first thing they did was scrap area committees. And the second thing they did is centralise. We're forced to actually have cabinet model, which I hate. I've always, when I first got on, it was committees making decisions. The government, I was watching the debate today in Parliament, they are insistent that the cabinet model is the only thing that they will accept. I've stood in the chamber and watched what goes on now, and it's appalling. So trust me, the Liberal Democrats, the one priority will be they will support opening up this council to make it more open for residents and councillors, because some councillors are even restricted what they can speak. And it's appalling. It's absolutely disgusting. And so the second priority, first priority is get the finances in order. And the second is get this council back owned by the people and not by 6 or 7 councillors.
Thank you, Gary. Said?
Yeah, thank you. I think Gary's kind of answered the question, and the question itself kind of answers it as well. in terms of what do we know about it, it stops people from participating, it stops people from actually expressing their opinions and concerns in local authority and at meetings. Ultimately, this goes back to something I've mentioned already. You can't make or you can't push through actions without having a majority. It's important that we try to push Labour out. It's important that if there is a hung council, that local groups, be whatever group it is, work together to try scrap undemocratic policies and ideas such as this. And I think it's fair to say, based on what everyone said, that if there was a hung council, it's something that would be scrapped. So I think that's a positive. So it's more often than not the case that everyone on the panel is in agreement with a lot of things. So it goes without saying that if there is a hung council, we're in a good, pathway going forward. So yeah, it's about uniting, pushing Labour out, getting a control over the local authority, and at that point, as a unit, you can make decisions as and how you feel that benefits the community in the best way. So yeah, it goes back to the same thing: push Labour out, work hard, be representative of your community, be vocal at a local authority level, and protest, because protests make a difference. Yep.
Wasim?
I think after our main priority, which I said earlier, is the cost of living. The second one was about genuine partnership. And what do I mean by that? That's with community groups, faith leaders, volunteers, and the third sector, so that consultation is not an afterthought, but is a real part of decision making from the outset. We will make Redbridge Council transparent and accessible. Public meetings should be easy for residents to take part in, even from the comfort of their own homes. I've sat in council meetings where you can't even take part when you're there live. It's ridiculous. Lots of filibustering goes on, where councillors ask ridiculous questions, just talk for ages so no one else can get a question in. We want to make sure that residents can ask questions and receive responses. We'll make sure accountability is real and visible. We'll also ensure that a human being is at the other end of the line and not a machine. We ensure that pensioners, disabled residents, families with children and young people feel they have a council that is no longer remote, but present and responsive. We will also hold regular open meetings, public, so that public can take part and question the leader and his team and engage directly without lots of bureaucracy. Redbridge deserves a council that is open, human, accountable, and rooted in the everyday lives of the people it serves. I'll tell you one last thing. I was at Citizens UK Assembly yesterday, I was at school, right? And there, it was an open forum. All the leaders of the parties were asked open questions and we could answer without any issues. One thing I will say is that it was myself, it was the leader of the Tories, and Cam Rye decided to pull out at the last minute and set Mark Santos instead, which is ridiculous because Mark Santos is not even standing for council anymore. So this kind of shows the kind of lack of respect that Labour currently has engaging directly with residents. That's definitely something we won't be doing. Thank you.
Cutting you back. So I think you didn't hear the fourth question. So I'll read it out to you. Okay. So the question reads: the public participation and monitoring, give me the mic. I think public participation and monitoring officer protocols were imposed by Redbridge Council in January 2024. The consequences severely erodes residents' democratic rights to hold councillors and the council to account. Please explain what you know about these protocols, and more importantly, what you will you and your party undertake to do to get them removed?
Well, this is concerning in terms of the local democracy. When I was in council chamber as a councillor since 18 to 22, there's a protocol that the target time for only 30 minutes or 35 or 40 minutes was allocated to the local council residents to ask the question, and then leaders are responsible cabinet member to respond to those questions. And then gradually this has been reduced, and recently, that is for 2-3 years now, that the effectively restrain and also controlling the way to residents ask this question. I think so. This is the best practice for local democracy. This should be find a way out to resolve and also take the active role for allowing local residents to ask this question directly, because end of the day, what I will always say that local council is not a part of policy or politics, it's about the service. And local residents need the service to be delivered, and they have a right to ask the question in the council chamber that how it been delivered and whether view has been taken seriously and consideration. In terms of we are offering that, as I said before, that we are offering that our councillors will hold local surgeries, and we also wanted to say that we will want to see the local forums, neighbor forums, local meetings, bring together citizens with councillors and senior council officers to tackle local problems and question and ideas. And this local forum has significant powers, and we ensure the senior officers deliver real change for the community. Because unless until you bring the local community to discussion and consultation, that there is no point about the local election and consultation and democracy. Because one thing is everyone is agreeing here, and we all part of this political engagement as an independent movement, because Redbridge democracy and engagement and public participation become reduced and gradually reduced. And they understand, because we want to see this, it changes, we want to see that positive impact, so positive involvement by local residents, and we want to see the democracy is thriving, because no council, no local authority can survive and function effectively if resident voice has been ignored. Thank you.
Upper class families who own businesses, they pick up the phone and they say to their manager, what's going on? And if the manager says, well, standing orders, you can come back next week and you give me a written notice to that question and I'll give you an answer. How do you think what would happen? They wouldn't be a manager anymore. So I'm encouraging people to think like that. It's your council. You can ask whatever reasonable question you want without notice. Anything else is complete tosh. So we need to get that attitude across to people. Unfortunately, power corrupts us. There's loads of studies, but there's also studies about how you can not be corrupt. You need a big, successful party who's constantly saying, hold up, last week you said that, but this week you're doing something else, like accepting hospitality from Western Homes, or meeting big business people at the Shard and not keeping minutes of what was said at meetings. You know, the long list of things that Labour has done that they shouldn't have done. So let's hope that there is a change in May, but if there isn't, it's the power of ridicule. I just hope that some other people, I've gone there countless times, and often I'm the only people gently pointing out, essentially they're having a laugh by banning all these questions. And, you know, I just say reasonable questions like, why haven't you prosecuted Jazz Atwell? That's sort of... They get the hump so much, they ban me from the chamber for a while.
Can't think why.
But the more of us who are prepared to do that and support each other, we can together change the culture. But you do need to work at it. So join a party, your party, Greens, whoever, but get involved.
Right. The fifth question is, please select one of your party's top priorities for local government and describe how you would implement it in Redbridge. Ali.
Yes, this is always good to have a first speaker, but sometimes it's bad as well, because you lose out listening other as well. But the more important things we're focusing on, the last part of my last question presentation in terms of the democracy and public participation. Therefore, we're putting forward the first priority that our councillors will be active. They will be running their local surgeries, and we will be putting forward the proposal that in public forum should be active, because it doesn't need too much money. Because when I was a councillor, I remember that it used to be like every 2 weeks time with a meeting in the library. either in local library or in a office somewhere, or somewhere local authorities providing facilities. And also I have meeting with local police on regular basis. This is reducing, and also therefore putting forward the proposal that it is possible, because it's not some sort of intention, some sort of your courage to go with the local residents and also find a space and also give some dedication and show some sort of encouragement that local residents want to engage and to hear a voice. In terms of related point that I said that public forum should be activated, because that was one of the forum that I attended many meetings last 4 years when I was a councillor, but this is also at the moment is effectively closed by saying about the funding. My understanding is that it is possible, because lots of residents group are willing to engage. We can engage the local residents group. But in terms of the venue for any hiring like this kinds of all, doesn't expense too much money. And obviously, if necessary, obviously those are participating. I'm not proposing anything in here, but if necessary, funding can be organized by anywhere, because council is running. Obviously, council making money as well differently, because of improving the public services, improving the public participation, I think is necessary, and also we'll be focusing on this public participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
I'm going to try and be unusual as a politician. I'm going to try and be candid. When I stood down in 2010, my party had 13 councillors. Then we went down in 2014, we lost our seats in 2018. We are aiming to get some councillors back, but it will not be honest, to form an administration on the council. Right? So I'm telling you now, you're not going to get a Liberal Democrat administration. So we won't be in the administration. But I can tell you also, in the past, Liberal Democrats, both nationally and locally, come up with good ideas, other parties ridicule them, and then they slip them in. So we'll be arguing for certain things. With our small group, it won't be a large group, but we're aiming to come back. The one other thing our councillors will be when they get elected is they'll be champions in their local community. Right? That's the key thing that Liberal Democrats believe in. That's what I did for 18 years in Chadwell. I stood down in 2010, however, I've remained active in Chadwell because I live there. So, for example, the last few months, what I've done, I've reported several cases of flight tipping, and I have to say the council response to the reports is pretty damn good. I wish it didn't happen because we have free collections, and residents still seem to dump it. The second thing I've done is I report dangerous slaves. Not such a good service, I'm afraid. And also report the water company didn't know about it. So there's the sort of things you do. And lastly, I was actually pressed the council to act because there was overhanging vegetation on a footpath by our park, such that you had to walk on the cycle route. And I managed to get the council, first of all, to get it done. And they got Barking and Dagenham to do it, but it's actually Redbridge land. But I wasn't too fussed. So they're the sort of things you can do. But once again, the number one priority, I will tell you now, my party group would it, get democracy back in this council. All the levels.
Yeah, so as of I'm going to try to simplify things as well. What is our party's priority? You didn't say whether it's before an election, after an election, if we get a majority, if we don't. There's a bit of an open-ended question. In simple facts, if you ask me today, what is our party's priority? Simply one thing. Out Labour from Redbridge.
Yes.
Now, that is our number one goal. We're campaigning, we're out on the doors, we're being vocal, we're pushing our weight around. I'll just give an example of how being vocal and present makes a difference. In one of our literatures, we spoke about the state of a small garden park at the corner of Grove Road, how the signboard hadn't been updated in about 8 years, how there was like a metal construction site type of barrier just blocking the gate. There was no gate, it was missing. So we distribute that across the entire ward. And lo and behold, today, what do we see? About 6 or 7 enforcement officers in the park, measuring everything. They're getting ready because we've just embarrassed them. Now, the aim and objective of each and every individual activist in the community, resident, has to be about challenging the Labour decisions, holding them to account. Nothing works better than embarrassing them. You embarrass them, they get the job done. I recollect an abandoned car on the street next door to my house. Thought I'd do a tweet about it. The next day it's gone. It was there for a week or two. So it's about holding Labour to account. Nobody here can turn around and say our priority. I'd be surprised if anyone's priority here was anything other than win an election, get rid of Labour. Only then do you cross the barrier where you say, all right, where are we now? And we analyze the situation and figure out what your priority is as a local party. I, not any individual in the Green Party, take it upon ourselves to make decisions. It's a democratic process. We sit as a group, we consult, we dialogue, we think about brainstorming the best way forward. And ultimately, what is our priority? Kick Labour out of Redbridge.
Thank you, guys.
I mentioned this before, and I just want to kind of change the narrative. And I think that we kind of, all of us are weighed down by austerity and cuts and doom and gloom, yeah? For me, one of the biggest things I want Redbridge Independence to bring, if we do get into power, is hope. Hope for our community. Things can change for the better. And what better way than thinking about our youth, our young people, right? If I think about my kids, my grandkids, and I think about their futures, I want them to be full of hope and full of aspiration, right? Too many young people in Redbridge are being left behind with no clear path into work. There's a failure of leadership after years in power, wielding schools, colleges, and employers directly so that they're not disconnected. We'll require apprenticeships and local hiring on every major project. We'll focus on real jobs in construction, green industries, and digital sectors. Right now, too many young people are being left to figure out alone. That ends with us. Thank you. Just on the tech and the business side, if I may. There's a business hub in Redbridge. I don't know if you know the old registry office near the Barkingside Tesco, yeah? And I looked into it, and to get a 2-person office, it costs you like 500 quid plus VAT a month, right? If you really want to grow business, if you really want to grow entrepreneurship, why don't you offer hot desking and make it the cheapest possible price so that people can go in there, brainstorm, figure things out, and come out with huge ideas and make a massive contribution to Redbridge.
Credibility is the way to grow a movement. You've got to be able to say to people, we're going to do things differently. We've discussed the standing orders. That's one of the ways to change things. Data collection, regular reporting. The other really big thing is this nonsense of commercial confidentiality. It's a complete and utter rip-off. If you were the manager of a company, if you was the owner of a company and you said to the manager, did you do a good deal? You spent £5 million for us, and the manager said, well, commercial confidentiality means I can't tell you that. You get rid of him. You laugh in his face. That's the situation now. We should be laughing in their faces. The Queen's PFI contract, the King George, the big contract at the independent union. The general manager for BHRUT said, if we get that contract, we will improve the quality of the lives of the people in Redbridge, Barking and Dagenham and Havery. But it was never tested. By that I mean they gave it to the private company, but you couldn't see the contract. It's there for the benefit of upper class families. So we have to get down to credibility. You've got to stop that. You've got to say to companies, if you bid, that bid is open. Everyone should see it. None of this tosh about it being secret. And if they go on strike, then you have to let people know that they've gone on strike. So we'll meet you halfway. How about in 5 years' time? All the contracts will be open. Will you then bid? 10 years' time, and until you change the corrupt or structures that are wide open to corruption, cynicism and apathy will hit any opposition party that takes power in Redbridge.
Right, the sixth question. As you know, this meeting is organized by Redbridge Palestine Solidarity Campaign, so it is a Palestine related question. The question is, have you been on any of the Palestine demonstrations locally or in central London? And or do you plan to join the Nakba 78 Palestine demonstration in central London on Saturday, May the 16th?
Well, this is one of the important issues as I discussed, and also as I said that thank you to Palestine Solidarity Campaign for organizing it. My way of saying is that there is no question about these things, because how many Palestinian Solidarity Campaign or really Nakba or other protests I have attended over the last 10-15 years, it is probably not able to count. One of the reasons is I was suspended from the Labour Party and taken my whip as a Labour councillor because of attending and also tweeting, putting Facebook posts about the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign or really organized Central London. And I think so this is something showing that how Redbridge Labour treated those that activists supporting the Palestinian cause. And I think so we all should be vocal about these things and raise strongly our voice. One of the reasons, and while this matter was going on, I've been asked by the Labour whip that I should give the undertaking that I shouldn't be attending any Palestinian Solidarity Campaign or Palestinian rally in central London or locally. And I said that I will be rather attending thousands rather than but sitting in the council, because I value the cause and obviously I do it continuously. And yes, I attended many events, and also I'll attend locally, nationally, and obviously any event organizing in the future I will be attending. Is there anything I missed? Any questions?
No, it's
Fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Gary?
I think I stated that I'd attended at least 10, several before the October Hamas attack and Israel's response in Gaza. The one thing I would like to see a bit more is more emphasis as well on what's going on in the West Bank. I know Gaza is very important. It is very important. It needs to dire what's going on there. But the West Bank is going on day after day after day. Locally, I've marched from Ilford Town Centre about 2 years ago, I think now, to Newham. And it was a nice sunny day and I enjoyed that. And I also joined one of your group picket outside Barclays Bank to try and encourage people to divert, to close their accounts. And I think several people did. One probably don't know that bit, but so hopefully they're not too unhappy with me being there. I don't think they were, but what the hell. And May the 10th, May the Nakba Day, my Democrat friends in Palestine are going. I will be there. Hopefully we'll be seen and we'll make a presence felt. And once again, we'll remind people it is not a left-wing issue. It's a moral issue. Any people from any party can actually believe that Palestinians have rights and they should be welcomed at those marches. Anyone.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, G. So the question, have I been to marches? Even though I don't want to make it about myself because I'm here on behalf of our local party. Yes, I've been to many marches, many going back 10, 12, longer than that with family. So people are aware, I used to be the community organizer for Sam Tyree MP. So I was quite integral in this campaign to get elected as a member of parliament at the time. I was a Labour member and the secretary of the local party. And as part of one of the things that we not implemented because it wasn't required to implement, we went to numerous marches, both local and national, as well as spoke, or in Sam's case, on the platform at Palestine Solidarity Campaign marches in central London, something that we as an office work quite closely with. From a personal capacity, I noticed Ruba's gone now, but Ruba used to always work, also work with Sam. And one of the things that I did on a personal capacity, because we're talking about what we've done, I led and encouraged Sam to have a fundraiser in support of Gaza to try and fundraise some money. Initially, when the war kicked off, it shouldn't be called a war, it's not a war, it's one-sided. But when the atrocities started happening, and we fundraised an extra £30,000. So that was something that I and Sam's office took an initiative on. Many people here were probably present. I do notice a few faces that were. So we've done a lot, and we've been doing it for 10 years plus. And it's sometimes sad when some, I wouldn't say activists, but some individuals across the country use the Palestinian cause or the detriment and ill fate of innocent Palestinians abroad to try and propel themselves politically. I think that's disgusting. I think it should be unheard of. It shouldn't be tolerated in politics and community work. And I also think it's a good question. People should look at individuals' track records. Track records speak volumes. Anyone can say anything they like. Go by what they've done, go by their actions. And from a party perspective, I know I see Nada here from the Green Party, who's been to a recent march in support of Palestine. So from a local party perspective, on numerous, I would say the majority of our members and activists are supportive of the Palestinian cause. They do attend Palestinian rallies. I know we've had group gatherings that have gone from Ilford to central London. So yeah, it goes without saying, I and our local party and candidates support the cause with a passion.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, like I said earlier, that when it comes to the Palestinian cause, that's kind of always in our hearts. It's one of the main reasons we launched the party, because we were just fed up of just going on marches, nothing changing, Labour standing by Israel staunchly, and no meaningful change happening. So one of the reasons we did launch a party was we were so angry at what was going on in Palestine, and we thought, how can we change it bit by bit, step by step? And that's one of the main reasons we got into politics, right? Is to change the situation on the ground. So whatever we can do locally, nationally, and internationally, whatever is in our power to help the Palestinians in both Gaza and the West Bank to have a proper state. Look, my brother lives in the US, and he's seen there that a lot of young people, increasingly globally, are now realizing that this is a matter of justice. It's not a matter of, fairness in any way. It's justice. It's pure justice. It's not about supporting Muslims or anything like that. This is a social justice issue across the political spectrum. So it's unequivocal our support for Palestine, and it's a red line if we have any candidates of ours who don't support that cause. Thank you.
Andy.
Yes, I'll do my very best to be there. People know me, say that I turn up if I can. There's family commitments. I don't see as much as my family as I'd like to. So if there's a family commitment, I won't be there. But long term, we've got my long term support. Aside from the deeply serious issue, it's great fun. There's lots of great bands. There's people there who make me smile. I was at one march. It was the one against Tommy Robinson. One was Be Nice, Don't Be Nazi. That made me smile. And there was another group of young women with Don't Have Sex with Reform Members or something, which probably I shouldn't have laughed at, but I did, But I would do my very best to be there. And I'd like to think I've shown my support in the past. Yes. My boy said I can't post up. I did, unfortunately. That would have been very good. Anyway, yes, I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you.
Oh, it's gone live, hasn't it? Oh, fudge.
Oh, you missed one.
Right.
I wasn't on there. Oh, you've seen it? Oh, well, yeah.
Okay, we got 8 minutes now before we kind of conclude the meeting. I think we might be able to squeeze in one question maybe from the audience, but I'd like all the candidates to answer that, but so you have to keep your question very concise and your answers also very more concise. Okay, so can I ask that lady over there?
This is just a question. Yes. Yeah, it's just a question to ask. Was Labour Party invited today, and what was their reason for not attending?
We can't.
Right.
Well, I mean, I can, well, basically, answer is. Okay, no, it can be fine, but-
Party was invited. The Conservatives politely declined. I was very happy that Reform said nothing because we would not, they're not in our league. But I tried desperately to get a Labour Party candidate to come onto this platform. I sent them numerous reminders and all I got was an acknowledgement. That doesn't mean they don't go to Hustings. I understand they're going to Hustings in Wanstead Library. So they are willing to go to Hustings, but the fact that they've refused to come to a Palestine Hustings tells me more than tells me a great deal.
Thank you, Dan. I think Dan, I've answered that quite well. So I think we can squeeze in maybe one more question.
I'll try to keep this brief, but for everyone, especially the average person. So you all represent your respective parties, and of course come here today to say your piece. And I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. But hypothetically, for each one of you, if you do win the majority vote, and not as a hung or a coalition style arrangement, let's use Labour as an example. They're the perfect example of how it corrupts. They started initially, historically, as something quite good for the working average person. And now we've seen that that's deviated so far from this original narrative. For each one of you, what mechanism do you have in place to maintain your integrity, especially as time erodes you?
The first question, like very quickly, Carly?
Mechanism
That's a very important question. Time is very short. I give 30 seconds of 1 minute.
Yeah, but this.
Okay, very important question because the whole purpose of as I said before, the Redbridge, the movement, those are used to be Labour councillor activists. Most of are in here, Labour activists and in here as well. In this hall, I had many meetings we organized. I was vice chair of Input South CLP. I have many meetings. Said was secretary, Diana was here. Ross is in here. We have many meetings in here. I used to be about 40-50 people every month have a discussion. And then after that, all collapsed because of system collapse, nepotism, and obviously the lack of accountability and the corruption rise. And therefore, we have to demand about this simple thing. But we will ensure that our candidates all are monitored. And obviously for myself, we will be do our best to ensure that all are transparent, there is nothing is hidden, and everyone will be monitored their activities on regular basis. Thank you.
Gary?
But I joined the Liberal Democrat or Liberal Party, and trust me, we weren't coming for money to gain or even for power when I joined. I was on the council for 18 years. I was a cabinet member for 3 months because the Tory administration then had a disagreement, and so they couldn't actually form an administration. So I was in a joint Labour Liberal Democrat administration for 3 months, and I was the highways cabinet member for 3 months. I'm not aware I got any money out of it. Or no, I got an allowance, to be fair. It was a highways department. When I first stood, we didn't even have allowances. We just got expenses. I did it because I wanted to serve my community where I lived. And I wanted to do it because I live down. And the last thing you've got to know about Liberal Democrats is we don't get money from big business. We don't get money from trade unions. That's why I'm proud to be a Liberal Democrat, because I can look at the issues, and my party can look at the issues that really matter to the country and know they're not the economic issues, and I don't know, I've got to actually listen to those paymasters of my party, because we don't have.
Said?
So I'll probably be quick because I know we're running short on time. So I think that's a very good question. I think it's a very important question. It's partly one of the reasons before I joined the Green Party that I chose to join the Green Party. I've got many friends on the left of politics, former Labour actors, well, not I'm former Labour, they're current Labour, members of Parliament, people in the House of Lords. A lot of people that went independent, and I chose not to. One of the reasons I chose not to was because of democratic values, because I didn't want to be part of any single entity that is a law upon itself. And I do feel a lot of the independent movements across the country, so it's not targeting anyone in Redbridge, but across the country, it's an entity created by a group of people. They're the bosses of that entity. Some say they're independent, but you can't be independent if you're a political party because you have a structure. So therefore, you're not independent in essence. In the Green Party, we have a beautiful policy that I like, is that the local party is basically its own boss. So if I or any member of the Green Party decided to, start saying things that the party doesn't agree with, started acting in such a way where we're being irresponsible or getting hungry for power, our local members have the power and the mandate to pull us in and say, stop, if you don't, you're in big trouble. And it's not us, it's them. So we have 600 plus paying members holding us to account. And I want to finish up by saying, as John said about Lib Dems, we're in the Green Party. Nobody can say we're here for power.
I'm not John. Gary, sorry, Gary. All right, what about John Tyson? Good guy, John.
Yeah. I want to answer that lady's question first, if I may. I'll be brief. So why didn't Labour send someone here that also didn't say Cameron didn't appear? Let me just be brief. I to talk about it.
Very brief.
Look at their links. You've got Epstein, you've got Mandelson. Yeah, the Labour Party is no more the party of the working people. Yeah, it's a shell. It's gone so far right. It sounds more like the Tories have reformed than Labour. Right. It's why we are all here having to fight for working class people, for families, against division and the disgusting dog whistling from Labour. And by the way, they can't stop talking about Redbridge independence. Why? Because they know we're coming for them on the 7th of May. If people want change, then change is coming. Polls today show half the seats will be lost in Redbridge.
Can you answer
the question, please?
Integrity. Look, I'll tell you, the main thing that corrupts is funding and lobbying, right? And that's what Labour, and that's why they've gone corrupt. Look at West Streeting, RMP, right? Palantir gives them money for the NHS to privatise that. Where else does it get money from? The Zionist lobby. So obviously it's going to be staunch Israel supporter. We've implemented something that every single one of our candidates is going to give a percentage of their allowance to the party every single month. So we'll have enough funding to do what we need to do, and everyone's got a share in the game. So we're all together, united, and we have a really strong exco that keeps us all of our feet under the fire. Okay? All right.
If I'm elected, I won't take a wage or a council allowance. The reason I ask that is I've watched how allowances corrupt people, because charismatic leaders, I'm not saying that happens in Redbridge, but charismatic leaders can look for people who need that £10,000–12,000 a year, and all they have to do is vote for the leader, make sure the leader stays there. So that's, if you want to change the structure, you've got to get away with allowances. I work for a coach and school football team for free because I believe in it. Family member gives hours of her time for a faith group because she believes in it. There's probably people in this room who gives hours of unpaid voluntary work. If you're going to improve governance in Britain, you've got to scrap councillor allowances. Maybe the parties fund them, but you've got to scrap those allowances. It's corrupt.
Right, we're coming towards the end of the meeting. I think we're going to have very, very brief closing statements from each of the candidates, and then the meeting's finished, basically. Okay. So starting off, Khalid, you want to make a very brief?
Yes, very good. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak in here, and I'd like to thank the organizer Also thank all of you and the candidates standing in the election. I wish very best of everyone. Those who are intent to come to politics is a noble cause, and obviously we want to see that those are young and first time standing, they're making progress in the politics, making contribution. In terms of the Redbridge matters, we filed 9 candidates in different wards. Our candidates are skilled, they're experienced, they're capable, they are professional. I hope that they will do their best in the progressing until election. And we ask local residents to see the manifesto and our place and to support Redbridge Metro's candidate. And finally, thank you very much for everyone.
First of all, I'll see you at the next March. Look at the Liberal Democrat banner. One thing I'll just quickly say is, whoever gets on the council, think about why you're there. In Chadwell, there's a place called the Keith Atson Centre. It's a library come community centre. It's wonderful. My party, when we were the councillors there, we were told there was a planning application and you could get planning gain. Planning gain means you can get money or you can get a something from the developers. I can say that's the only thing that Redbridge Council has got from planning gain. Planning gain otherwise just goes into the empty pot. And I was proud because we had to work to get support for that. And it's called the Keith Atson Centre for one reason. Keith Atson Centre was the leader of the Conservatives. I didn't care what it was called. I made sure that the then Tory culture, we talked about it, we got together. They called it whatever they call it. We've got a facility. There was a possibility that was going to be sold off about 4 years ago, and I was suspecting, I think, where it was going to go, and I actually organised a campaign for that. Those are the sort of things you should be fighting for. And regardless, don't worry about talking to other parties. Sometimes they are good. Thank you.
Yep, so final closing statement, I'm just going to be quick. Just basically, I'm here on behalf of the Green Party, vote Green. We're faring very strong. Today, the YouGov poll for political came out. It's put the Greens 1 point behind Labour at 23. So now, regionally here across borough, the Greens are faring very strong. There's numerous wards across the borough where we're coming polling second. Polls are indicating that we are in decent position to win at least 4 or 5 or challenging 4 or 5 seats across the borough. Be conscious when you vote. When you do live in different parts of the borough, have a look at the poll, because ultimately we want to keep Reform out, we want to keep Tories out, and then we want to keep Labour out. Check who you're voting for, what your candidates are about. Don't just blindly vote. It should never be about the colour of one's party. It should be about the colour of that person's politics. Research your candidates, think tactical. Yeah, and let's make some gains and keep Labour out of Redbridge.
All right, I think everyone knows why we're here. We are fed up of 12 years of Labour in Redbridge. Naturally, and it's a Palestine meeting, we will never ever forgive Labour for their role in the genocide in Gaza. That's something we will never forget and we will never forgive. We are the only party which has actually defeated Labour in recent times in Mayfield Ward. We got 42% to Labour's 26%, and Noor Begum, Councillor Noor Begum, has just left for another meeting, but well done to her, well done to the team. Massive applause, really. That's all I can say to that. We now have 42 people standing across 15 wards, people from all different backgrounds. We've got people from the Asian, Arab, Black community, all different religions and backgrounds, and we're really proud of that diversity. And all I can end with is, from the bottom of my heart, if you really want meaningful change, we can win a majority in Redbridge. We can make massive change for the 300,000 residents of Redbridge. We're really proud to be standing as an independent political party. We've been doing this for 2 years. We know how to win. We know how to defeat Labour in the East End of London. And inshallah, with your help, we can definitely do it. Thank you very much. Vote RPSC.
Yeah, and
Briefly, vote for the best your party candidate in your ward. There's an awful lot of your party candidates in wards, so the best one, be great. be active afterwards. There's a GLA election coming up. I hope your party and I hope other parties will say enough of these terrible, terrible high rises and make that a key manifesto pledge at the GLA election. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So many people to be here. See you.
Okay, finally, yeah, thank you. Finally, thank you, Redbridge PSC and everyone who has helped to organize this event. And all of you for taking the time to be here today. And best wishes to all the candidates, even if you're not successful, I hope you have a good campaign and a healthy campaign. And good night. That's it. Thank you.